Hello everyone. In a previous video, I talked about the practice of forgiveness and how it's tremendously important to forgive and to just let go of past experiences, past events, and how forgiveness helps in the ascension of our energy. I'm going to leave a link to that video if you'd like to re-watch it or if you'd like to see it for the first time. But then I got another question associated with forgiveness. It's kind of a follow-up, so I wanted to go into that today. And that is, how do we let go of the past? How do we move on from a painful past experience? And I hear this a lot. How do I move on from a painful past or from something really traumatic that happened in my life? And I usually follow that question with another question, because there's an underlying charge many times with this question, how do I move on? And the question is this, move on from what? And the person will say, well, I want to forget about this. I want to be done with this. I hear this a lot. I want to be done with it. I want to forget about this event and move on. And so then my question again, I follow up with another question. Why do you want to forget this past event? And what I'm doing with these questions, and I ask you to ask yourselves these questions, is because the underlying foundation of the idea or this concept of moving on and healing, so many times we are trying to heal from a foundation of rejection of what happened to us, rejection of what we're feeling right now. So when someone says, I want to forget about that, why? Why do we want to forget about this event? And usually the reason behind the why we're trying to forget something is because we're still in rejection mode of that event and what it caused in our lives. So the first step and the first tip I like to give about healing and moving on from painful, traumatic life experiences is to be able to just put your hands down and dwell where you are right now. And what I mean with putting your hands down is that you remove the need to push or pull against the event. So many times we are rejecting the event, so we push it away. No, I don't want to see it. No, I don't want to feel it. Or we're pulling at it where that event is used as a means for us to build an identity around a painful life experience. That happens a lot. So there's this constant pushing and pulling against this event, and this causes a lot of internal turmoil. So the first step for me, and the most profound one in healing and moving on from trauma, is to dwell where I am right now. And I used this in my own life when it came to painful experiences in my childhood, to just be able to dwell where I am right now. So if that happens to be anger, if I am in anger right now, I'm going to dwell in that anger. If I feel pain, I will dwell in that pain. I will cradle whatever I'm feeling inside. Even if it's sadness, even if it's dense energies or emotions that are considered bad, I'm going to dwell, I'm going to cradle those emotions. So if I feel rage right now, I will allow myself to cradle that rage. I will no longer push or pull against that past event that occurred in my life that was really painful. So I'm going to be present and I'm going to dwell in that state that I'm in right now. So that's the first step, is an acceptance of the present moment as it is. I feel this and I'm going to dwell in this. The second step is a removal or a distancing from the memory. And this is really important neurologically, because a memory continues to be reinforced in our brains and our memory centers, various areas of the brain. Actually, memory is stored in a lot of different areas, not just one. So a memory is reinforced if that episode comes back in your mind and you have an emotional reaction to it. That memory will continue to be reinforced. So if there's a strong emotional reaction to a thought or a memory is a thought or a succession of thoughts. If there's a strong emotional reaction, the stronger the emotional reaction, the more we are reinforcing the neural pathways that hold that memory intact. So when you distance yourself from the memory, from the thoughts, you're removing the charge. I like to use the word charge. You're removing the charge from that memory. Why? Because you're removing the emotional reaction to it. And when you remove the emotional reaction to a memory, what you'll notice is that the frequency that you think about that memory diminishes. Why? Because the pathway to that memory is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because you're not reinforcing it with emotions anymore. So the distancing from the memory is really, really important after we've dwelled in the present moment and we've moved from a position of rejection. We dwell in that, then we begin to distance ourselves from the memories or from the thoughts that are occurring regarding that past event. And I like to use this mantra in this second step to healing. And the mantra is, it's just a thought. It's just a memory. So I breathe whenever a painful life event from the past, I did this a lot during my own healing work, when a painful life event or a memory popped up in my mind, I took a deep breath. Sometimes I'd close my eyes and I'd say, it's just a thought. It's just a memory. And as you say this mantra, you are separating yourself more and more from that memory. You're removing the emotional charge that that memory had on you. Now you're removing it. And the more you remove it, the more distance you put between your thought and the memory and you, the consciousness observing it, the less emotional charge you bring to it, the more that memory starts to dwindle, to disintegrate. And I love this practice. And what this practice does is eventually, if you begin to distance yourself more and more and more, you will be able to just observe this thought or this memory of something that happened to you. You'll be able to observe it without any emotional reaction whatsoever. And I like to imagine the beating of your heart to bring that image up for you. So your heart is beating, my heart's beating right now, boom, boom, boom. And the heart just keeps beating in a steady fashion. But because I have no emotional charge whatsoever behind any heartbeat, there isn't one heartbeat that's traumatic to me. So there isn't one heartbeat that I emanate fear towards, that I identify with. So I can observe my heartbeat without having any emotional reaction to it whatsoever. You could do the same thing with your thoughts, because your thoughts are sort of like heartbeats. They occur in a huge frequency, about 70,000 thoughts in one day that we have. So you can start observing all of your thoughts, including painful memories. You can begin to observe them in the same way that you can observe your heartbeat, without any emotional reaction to it whatsoever. And eventually that's what will happen. A memory comes up, and let's say that the thought of a painful past experience comes up in your mind. You just observe it. There's no emotional reaction, no longer any emotional reaction to it, and then you move on. That's really what it means to move on to me, to heal. To me, that's what it means. It just means that whatever happened to me in the past, although it may be stored in my brain for the rest of my life, because painful memories generally can be stored in your mind for the rest of your life, and that's okay. The trick, the profound truth about healing is not that I need to forget the memories. It's that the memories no longer cause an emotional pull on my part. So there is no emotional reaction whatsoever when the memory pops up. So if you, for example, say, I think about that painful event that occurred in my childhood. I think about that every day. How do I forget it? You may never forget it. But the beautiful thing is, as you remove the emotional charge from it, you'll notice that you'll start thinking about that event less and less and less and less. And you may eventually forget it. It may just disappear completely from your mind, or it may not. That's okay. Don't make it a goal. Just let it be and remove the emotional charge from it, and you're healed. That's what I consider a healing, is a complete separation from memories, from thoughts, and no reaction emotionally whatsoever to that event and to that thought or to that memory. So there you go. I hope this helps. How to move on how to heal. It's not really about forgetting anything. It's just simply letting that memory or that painful life experience, letting it float in the form of thought and not reacting to it emotionally. Have a wonderful week, everyone.